Hey guys, I'm really excited for this video. On the bench right here, we've got the MT8 from Associated, and this is an excellent 6S short wheelbase vehicle. This one's a lot of fun to play with, and it stunts really well. It's got way too much power, and it's just a blast to play with, but we do have issue, and the issue is with the transmitter, and it comes with the XP120, which is this thing, and most of the Associated stuff comes with these, and not a fan. Just not a fan. They don't work all that well. We had the same transmitter in the Unicorn, the Unitruck. We have the same one in the MT10, and that one failed altogether, and we wound up replacing that one. So we're not going to wait for that to happen on this one. There's better controls out there, so we're going to go ahead and swap this out. And we've been watching the forums, and in the forums, they're starting to put the Dumbo RCs in here, and we happen to have quite a few of these here because this is an excellent radio, especially for the price. Now, if you live in the States, these may take a little while to get there, but it's worth the wait. So if you think you need one of these things, they're pretty quick. They've got great range on them. There's a lot of controls. This is the 6th channel, and it's hooked up to my drag car. And the one drag car this is connected to is the Losi Triple X, and it's the Kinwald edition. And we've modified that one to run drag races. And it works pretty good, and this is the perfect radio for it because of all the ways you can set this up. Now, this one here, there's two different options that we're aware of here for this, and this is the option we're going to go with. This is the receiver, and this is the X6F. So they have the X6FG, and the G stands for gyro. This one's the X6F, no gyro, 6 channel. So it'll still sync to that radio, or bind to that radio if you like that word better. This one is no gyro, and the cool thing about that is with this car, since it's such a short wheelbase, the gyro is really not all that necessary. So in this video, we're going to do a step-by-step for you. We're going to show you how to get the old stuff out. We're going to show you how to put the new stuff in, and it can be a little confusing because this has lights, and it has the speed control, and it has the servo, and there's 3 different wires that you got to connect. We'll show you how to do all that. Beyond that, we're going to show you how to bind the system so you can get the receiver to see the transmitter. Then we're going to go over what you do for settings so you know how to set it up. This should be helpful. It still should be fun because we love working on the bench here. So let's get it down on the bench and let's get started. All right, so what we have here is, before we get down on the bench, I want to show you something that I've seen a lot of people have problems with these things, and they go after them with pliers and screwdrivers and all this stuff, and it's the caps they put over the nut here. Now, these caps here, you look at them, you can't really see how they're supposed to come out, but take a look at this one right here. Okay, this is just basically a cup. It's a threaded cup, so all you got to do is grab it. You got to pinch it pretty good, guys, and then twist. It's threaded on the shaft, so it just comes off like this. And if you take a look, this little stub right here is what threads on to that piece right there. So that's what it is. This threads right into the hole of the nut, and it's just a little spin-off item. So here's the front one. You just turn them off. So you might have to pinch it a little bit. Don't pry at them. They thread right off. There's nothing to it. So they're not as tricky as they seem. So let's get it on the bench and carry on. All right, so there you go, and we finally got this little bugger out of there, and that radio for the XP120 is gone from the system now, which is very cool. Now this has the Dumbo RC in it, and it seems to be pretty responsive. Now, the important part is that when you get it set up, keep in mind that on the X6F, that one, the outside prongs are negative, so make sure you hook the dark colored wires up on the outside, not the inside, and there's a little red marking on the top if your still has the label that shows you negative as outside. The steering servo goes in slot number 1, the ESC goes in slot number 2, and the lights can plug into any of the other slots. They're not exactly triggered, they just get power, so when you turn the car on, the lights come on. If you don't want your lights to run, just don't plug that one in, it'll work out just fine. Now, as far as the radio goes, syncing is really simple, and let's set this back for a second, get it out of the way. So this is your basic transmitter right here, and it does have 6 channels on it, but the ones you want to pay attention to on this one are inside here. Now, on the upside of this, there are 4 of these, and we'll try and get you a close-up of this, but there are 4 of these knobs here, and the bottom 2 are dual rates. So that allows you to turn your power, if you're on the throttle side, down to 0, which means the car won't move when you pull the trigger, or you can turn it up to 100%, which gives you full power. Now keep in mind, it also splits the brakes down, so the more you dial this dual rate down, it's kind of like a pizza pie when you think about it. This is 100% and this is 0. So anywhere in here, if you figure it a servo, the servo can swing anywhere between those two. At 100%, you get 100% throttle and you get 100% brakes. As you turn the dual rate down on the throttle side, you lose power and brakes. So if you've got 50% power, you only get 50% brakes. It brings it down evenly. It's not exactly end points, guys, because it can't do them individually the way the high-end radios can. It only brings them down together. So when you bring your dual rate down, expect to lose brakes as you lose power. That's the same way you look at it. Now on this, when you get, and I marked my sides here with just a marker so I can keep in mind when I'm in the field which side I need to mess with. The top 2 here, those are your centering for your servo and zeroing out for your speed control. So this is how you find neutral. Above that are 2 switches, and those are to reverse them. So if you're turning the steering wheel to the right, the wheels are turning left, you need to reverse the steering servo to get it to turn the right direction when you turn it. All right, so let's go ahead and get things fired up here. So we'll turn on the transmitter. And since it's already bound, we'll turn on the car and it should see everything directly. Let's give it a test. Steering is functioning. Have a look in there. And right here is the dual rate for the steering. So notice how it turns full direction. Well, as you turn this down, you can turn it all the way to 0. Now you get no input at all. That's what the dual rate does. So crank it all the way up. Now take a look at the servo down here. See this right here? Watch it move. See how it's binding? That means it's turning too far, so you want to bring the dual rate down to where you get full steering, but it doesn't bind. So we'll adjust it so that it does that. You want it to not rock in the cradle if you can help it. There we go. Now we've got that looking pretty good. So that's what the dual rate does for the steering. Perfect, just like that, and that's the dual rate knob right there. Okay, now up in front of that, above that is your trim knob, and that's how you adjust it to drive straight. So this is always geared towards new people, guys, so you want to adjust that so the car runs straight away from you without touching the steering wheel at all. Just tune it up so it drives true. And that takes care of that side of the radio. Now let's check the throttle. And it does appear to be working good. Brakes are working, throttle's good. Now going backwards, it doesn't spin as fast as going forward, which is what you want, because if it does go faster backwards than forward, you have it set backwards, and you may have to reverse a couple of the wires on the motor. So we've got the dual rate right here on the throttle as well, and you can turn that all the way down. Looks like we've got a little trim work to do. There we go. And now it's turned all the way down. We have 0 input. So it won't do anything because the dual rates are at 0. So that does gauge how much power it goes to both sides. That's brakes and throttle. So we'll turn it up a little bit. We've got some. So this is how you can gauge how fast your car will go, how much power it is. If you're new to it, you might want to start a little lower, but you can crank it all the way up. Here's the thing. When you get it rolling like this, it loses brakes too. So if you're running at 25% power, you get 25% power to the acceleration and only 25% power to the brakes. It's really aggressive at 100%. See how that works? Now, above that, we have the trim knob, and that's how you find 0. What that means is it'll keep your car from trying to drive away from you or buzzing and grunting trying to move when you're not touching the controller. You want it set at 0 so it doesn't move. Just like that. When you put this together, guys, take the tires off the car. Just do that, because runaways are dangerous. You can get things wound up in them. These things really spin up at 6S. We only set this up on 4S, but at the same time, we took the wheels off to get that kinetic energy out of the way so nothing got destroyed, no one got hurt. Everything went nice and smooth. So remove the tires, put it together, set it all up, then seal everything down, because if you have to move, an example is, we did go and stick that receiver down in there because I don't like them rattling around in there. The associated one was floating. The thing is, in order to rebind this, I'll have to peel it off that two-sided tape to rebind it, because the hole's in the end that you have to push that little button for. Not a big deal. You turn it on, the light goes solid, okay? The radio's still off. Turn the radio on, leave it for a second. Let's see what it does. Then touch that in the end and hold that down just gently. It's a light little switch, guys. You don't have to push hard. Just gently click that little switch and hold it till it starts to flash. Once it starts to flash, let off the button and wait. Now the receiver is looking at the transmitter. When it goes solid, it should be hooked up. Now that doesn't mean it's done. You can move the controls, right, left, throttle, brakes. It may not respond right away because it has to figure out what everything is. When it does respond, and it took a couple seconds for ours to do it, it jumped onto the steering and it jumped onto the throttle and everything worked. It works just the way it's supposed to. We don't have anything reversed in the radio. It's all working like it should, and it should go just that easy. Well, there you go. There's the installation of the Dumbo radio into the MT8 from Associated. You know, we really do like this car here. It's a lot of fun to play with. It's a handful, especially with the stock radio in it. We really wanted to get that out of there, and we came up with the perfect reason and time to do it. We were in the Facebook group and we were answering questions and trying to help out best we can when this subject came up. Mitt brought it up and said he was getting one in his, and it spurred a whole bunch of conversation, and we couldn't help it. We had to get in here and definitely get ours installed. It was a perfect opportunity for us to show you how it's done. And if you've never done it before, it can seem pretty daunting. The problem is when you put this together the way we did it, Associated left the receiver loose and it floated in the box. And when you hit hard, that can be hard on it. So we taped ours down, which you generally tape them down. But with the Dumbo RC, the bind button's on the end. Okay, which means each time you need to bind it, if you ever have to rebind it, you have to peel it out of the bottom to do so. That's okay. I'd rather not have it beat up in there. I'd rather have to do that since it doesn't have a gyro. It really wouldn't make that big a difference, but I always like to hook them down. And if you have a gyro, definitely connect it down in the box because it needs that solid fit for the gyro to work properly. This one doesn't have that. You know, the Facebook group has been really cool in the fact that it brings our attention back to this particular car. We have a lot of them here, and sometimes cars get lost in the shuffle. This one is short, it's fast, it's overpowered, it's a blast to play with, and now that it's got the Dumbo RC in it, it's going to control better than ever. It still has some tune-up to do on it, but we're getting there one step at a time. Mitt, you and your group, you are fun to be part of, and I'm glad you invited us in. If you have any comments you'd like to add, please feel free to get into the comment section and help others along the way. Hey guys, for AJ Jam Studios, I'm AJ saying, keep wrenching, guys.